The average New York City apartment building is a lot like a can of sardines. It's packed to the gills, needs a key to get into, and is absolutely disgusting when the juice from inside gets on your shirt. The sardines may have friendlier residents and a more pleasant odor, but sadly are missing the irony of packing people so close together and having the gall to call themselves apartments. It's not that I dislike the cities, I just have a hard time dealing with terrible traffic, incomprehensible parking laws, pretentious hipsters, mediocre murals, overrated food, a population density higher than Willie Nelson, and a smell that can only be described as icky. Essentially, I think of any US city the same way most US cities think about New Jersey. A terrible place that should only be visited in fire and brimstone sermons when the idea of hell isn't depressing enough. And with little more than a sheet of dollar store foam board and a tourniquet around the imaginary olfactory, these apartment buildings can be made cheaply and easily. Let's get into it. First things first, find a piece of chipboard or cardstock and cut out a 2" by 3" rectangle and draw a rectangle inside that rectangle and use it as a window stencil. Then grab a piece of dollar store foam board and cut out 4 6" by 9" walls. If you want a bigger building, just make sure that the horizontal and vertical measurements are multiples of the stencil's measurements. Then peel off the paper from each side of the foam board like it's your back after a day at the beach. After taking the prerequisite time to get that image out of your head, use the stencil to create a series of windows on the front of the building, flipping the stencil over to make a door. This way you can also prove your dad wrong because the doors and windows you make are pretty much the same. Cut the windows out with a box cutter. Making sure to save the scraps to throw on the floor in front of your wife when she yells at you for making a mess. Do this again for any other sides of the building that you'd like to have windows on, just making sure to vary up the pattern to keep things interesting. Next, buckle up and pitch a tent because your hand is going cramping. Measure and mark 1 centimeter spaces going vertically from one side of each wall before carving in the grooves with a ballpoint pen. It's not important whether or not you can see the mark, just that it's there, kinda like Santa Claus. Then mark 2 centimeter spaces and carve a line into every other layer of foam to emulate a brick pattern. And if your hand starts to hurt, just remember that all in all, Pink Floyd is pretty overrated. Once that section is done, toss on some deep purple and carve grooves into the alternating layers offset by a centimeter but still 2 centimeters apart. And just in case anyone was wondering, the only reason I'm using metric over the proper and correct freedom units is because an inch is too long of a measurement and fractions are hard. Once done, grab some coffee stir sticks and cut them to the width of the windows and glue them to the bottom half to create sills. Then use the offcuts from the stir sticks and glue together a small set of stairs to get into the building. Next, use the rest of that chipboard and some Eileen's tacky glue to create a backing for the windows so that you can keep Tom from tossing in those marshmallow chickens from Easter. Cut out a roof and floor, making sure both are roughly 6" by 6" before taking a tiny hot glue gun and feeding it one of those Mario mushrooms. Then grab the 4 walls and glue them together using a square to prop up the walls at a perfect right angle. Glue on the roof and floor before cutting some 1/2" wide strips to line the roof and glue them across the top with about half of the strip rising above the roof line. Then, using another dollop of tacky glue mixed with a tinkle of tap water, give the roof a thin coat of glue before raiding the kitchen and grabbing some underwhelming dairy and loading its sandy contents into an empty herb shaker to give the whole roof a nice even coat of sand. Let the sand dry completely and then give the whole piece a coat in Mod Podge mixed with Apple Barrel's black paint. This will make the whole piece more durable and give it a base coat. Then lay down an equal and opposite base coat using Apple Barrel's Granite Gray. This will give everything that chalky look as well as coloring the mortar in between the bricks. Then paint all the bricks with Apple Barrel's Barn Red because despite what it says on the bottle, it can also be used as brick red. And also despite what it says on the bottle, it doesn't taste like apples, it tastes like barn. Coat the roof and watered down pavement before going back over the top and bottom as well as the windowsills with another coat of Granite Gray. After that, paint the stairs we made from earlier. Carefully give the windows another coat of black mixed with just a little bit of water. Then, to fill up the empty space on the rest of the building, get out that collection of itty-bitty posters you took 2 hours formatting because Google Docs doesn't seem to play well with images imported from Google Images and toss a couple on. Lastly, add some graffiti. Just draw some bubble letters before outlining them in a different color. But be careful to use just letters, because if you end up drawing a mural of an African animal, you'll be doing giraffe-heedy. And if you draw lines to quantify numerical relationships, you'll be doing graph-heedy. And if you paint a picture of an open window, it might get a little cold, because then there'll be a draft-heedy. Listen for the sounds of your friends and family abandoning you because of how terrible that joke was, and then comment your own version of the joke so that we can all be alone together. Lastly, glue the stairs from earlier to the front of the building, and then if you're feeling squirrely, a few boards across the windows to keep out the riffraff before moving on to the outro. It's not that I don't like the cities. I just don't like paying more to live worse. I prefer the country, where the sour milk smell from the cities is replaced with the far-off aroma of various types of manure, where people fly down the dirt roads at Mach 12 while singing about sexy tractors, and people treat John Mellencamp's "I Was Born in a Small Town" as their national anthem, despite living 8 minutes from the nearest Walmart. Despite the fact that I'm taking shots at everyone, we know that every place has its problems. Each area of the world has its own distinct flavor of nonsense, and I suppose one of the aspects I love about wargames is the opportunity to build a small community. Because if we both like rolling dice, then it doesn't matter if you're city or country. It doesn't matter if you're suburban or super rural. It doesn't matter if you're a beach bum or hill folk, or even lake trash and hippies. As long as you like games and aren't a Disney adult, we can be friends. Have a good one.